Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more underwhelming than John Mozeliak's approach to free agency. My name's Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hi, everybody.
Nice. And this week we are talking about some of the news coming out of the NL Central. We're going to talk about the aforementioned Cardinals' approach to free agency since the lockout ended. We're going to be talking about some of the news coming out of the Cardinals' spring training, and we're going to touch on some of the blockbuster deals that are happening around the league. If you have an idea for the opening joke, please don't hesitate to tweet us at Talk About Birds. Love to throw in some other ones in there. Ben,
can we call it a joke?
Well, that's the. I don't know. Is a joke defined by its impact or its intent?
Oh.
Because intent, it's there. I don't know about impact.
All right, I'll give you a break on that.
So Ben, there's baseball.
Holy cow. There's a CBA. Players are doing baseball activities in baseball stadiums, not in backyards and high schools.
Right.
And I think there was like some type of camp or workout thing going on at Vanderbilt, and they kicked all the college kids out.
Get out of there.
Professional baseball players are on professional baseball fields with their organizations behind them. So, if anything has happened over the past 3 months, like maybe motorcycle accidents or lingering shoulder issues, we're just now finding out about those, which is exciting.
Yeah, I was that's been one of the reminders of like, oh yeah, baseball's back. I'm so excited, telling all my friends and family, finally I've got, baseball to be a part of again. And it's like, oh yeah, this sport is hell as we just hear about injury after injury after injury for Cardinals or otherwise. But yeah, we're excited it's back. It's in the rearview mirror. We're not going to talk about the CBA. We just want to talk about baseball. But I will say our run of impeccable diming continues. We switched the whole format and the release date of this show to try to be more on top of the news and more relevant. And of course, the day we release our last week's episode was the day the CBA was agreed to, rendering like the first half of our entire conversation moot. So whatever, here we are now that did give us now a week's full of or almost a week's full of actual baseball activity to talk about. And yeah, we're super excited to get into it. So just jumping right in, our first topic we want to talk about is the NL Central. What is going on with the NL Central? We know the Cardinals are their steadfast approach to getting around 88 to 90 wins and seeing what happens from there. But we're seeing some clear decisions being made in other teams of the NL. So Ben, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, as far as this conversation goes, there's one team to talk about, one team to be mad about, and that's the Reds. I think we were talking shit on the Reds last week. We can really do that this week.
We are always talking shit on the Reds.
Well, I mean, like, there's one thing of I guess taking a step back to take a step forward, and then there's just absolute tanking and tearing down your team, like literally ripping down the walls to the studs and giving the middle finger to your fans. And I as somebody who watches the Reds, they have good, obviously I have great disdain for them in my heart that will always be there. But,
Cueto,
and even Joey Votto, I love him, but he in that way where you want to punch him in the arm or something.
He's a heel.
But yeah, and a great heel. Baseball needs more of that. But I do really feel for the Reds fans right now. I think it's horseshit. They had a team that was probably a few pieces away or at least from being competitive, maybe not necessarily winning a World Series or anything like that, but from playing meaningful baseball late in the season. I was looking at this just so, well, I guess we should reference what I'm actually talking about if you're living under a rock or not aware. They have lost Sonny Gray. They traded away not Dan Straley, Wade Miley, Dan Straley, Wade Miley. Basically like the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same.
But actually, Wade Miley had a fantastic year and a perfect game last year. So he had a great season. I think he is a Cub now. And then they just traded Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker. Wink can hit to the Mariners for a bucket of young guys. And I was looking into this, and just those names that we've just talked about, they've subtracted almost 14 WAR from their team last year, which pretty much puts them in the bottom, the basement of the NL Central, assuming obviously the Cubs, I think we'll talk about the Cubs later, but the Cubs are improving somewhat. The Pirates are obviously basement dwellers as well. The Brewers are somewhat competitive and the Cardinals are competitive, or I put them on equal playing field really. But how unbelievably disappointing for Reds fans. They just took a lot of fun. Like, I don't see any way. What if you're a Reds fan? What are you watching this year? I think Joey Votto's kind of sort of asked for a trade with the media recently. I mean, it really. I mean, it makes me a little bit mad, to be honest. Like, I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of what everyone was hoping would be solved with CBA stuff, and I think we all walked away knowing that tanking wasn't really solved, and I think this is a clear indication that it wasn't really solved. It is a frustrating thing from a fan standpoint. Even as a someone who is this obviously benefits the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to play a weaker team more frequently, but even with that, like I like it when the Reds are competitive. That it's been a good rivalry, and it's been, I think, disappointing for the Reds that their window for competition really lined up with a couple other teams in the NL Central also peaking at the same time. There's almost always one team, usually the Cardinals, that are competing in the NL Central, but the Cubs and the Brewers and the Pirates have all faded in and out over the decades. And when the Reds were really competing, which was over the last 4 years, you saw the explosion of the Cubs, you saw the emergence of the Brewers, and the reentry of the Cardinals, all in line with the Reds window, and they just never got over the hump. I think all that really comes to mind is that NLDS where they got smoked by the Phillies, which was of course great. But they definitely felt like a team, like they were competing all the way up until the end of last year. We talked about it in our first episode. Part of the Cardinals' 17 game run and their vault into the playoffs included the Reds kind of falling apart at the end of the season, but they were there. They were in the wild card contention for most of the season, and with the expanded playoffs, I think even just standing pat, they would have been considered a team on the fringe of the playoffs, let alone if they had made the other decision to instead try to improve instead of blow up. So yeah, it's
I think
frustrating.
I think they could have attempted to retain Castellanos and maybe gotten a bullpen arm or two, and been maybe not the scariest team in the NL, but definitely a team that's going to come up against Cardinals and fight hard and be interesting. And actually, before we started recording, I forgot about this, but they just traded away Amir Garrett as well, who had a
Mm-hmm.
weird year last year, but is still a talented,
He's talented. Yeah.
back of the bullpen type guy. But yeah, I think boo.
I think boo as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, it's disappointing just to see any team sort of tank like that. But it's always weird when you see a team that is really at that crossroads. I just, it doesn't feel like they were far from competing, and a lot of these guys still in their prime, still young, still could compete for several years. Trading Winker, so strange. I guess they did it. They paired it with Eugenio Suarez's contract, and I guess that's part of the whole deal, which was it's essentially a salary dump, which is maybe the most boring thing in sports, and maybe the least fan satisfying thing is trading a really good player so you can get rid of a bad player just feels bad. There's
Yeah.
nothing fun about that unless you are a huge fan of managing the owners' wallets. Then there's nothing fun that comes from that.
Yeah, and like on the Winker thing specifically, he had broken out a little bit in 2020, and I think broke out really last year and had a great
Yeah.
year, although a little bit injured. And with the NL or the DH coming to the NL, it's a perfect spot for Winker to sit in. I like I said, if I was a Reds fan, I'd be pissed. And if there happen to be any Red fans that are listening to this episode, first off, what up? Sorry. Second, you should go be Mariners fans. You should not watch the Reds this year. You should watch the Mariners, and at least you can watch Winker hit, and that team is actually trying to win, even though they have publicly gotten caught suppressing player salaries. I mean, they're all bad. Oh, no owner is good, and we're
He's
not going to
just
sit here and stump for any
yeah.
owner, but at least they're trying to do something, unlike
Yeah.
the Reds front office right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been a fan of Mariners, really since the 90s, right? I think any kid who grew up in the 90s, you're a fan to some degree of the Mariners. And so it's fun to watch them compete. I think Winker's going to do really well over there.
Agreed.
Um on staying with the NL Central, the Cubs have done a few things, and the Cubs it's kind of they've gone through something similar, but it's very different. You can tell there seems to be more method to it than what the Reds have just done. The Cubs traded their entire team at midseason last year. But it also made a ton of sense. They weren't competing. Those were debt, those contracts were coming to an end, and they got some really, really good pieces for those players. It made a ton of sense. And I thought, I hate to say it, but I thought the Cubs did a really good job last year at the trade deadline. They got a lot of great value and have been able to um, rebuild relatively quickly, or at least they've started their rebuild quickly. And it seems now that they're already starting to aim towards when's their next competing window, adding players that I think will help them right now. Most notably, they just added Suzuki, probably the most sought after international free agent this year. What was the contract? 5 years, 85
Yeah,
million.
5 years, 85. Yeah, that signed this morning when I woke up. I was reading about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I guess Cardinal fans can look forward to really getting a good look at this guy. Always,
I am excited to watch him, almost
yeah,
20 times this year, even though it'll probably be him beating up on the Cardinals. But seeing a young guy like this with the scouting reports that you read about him, like just being a baseball fan, I'm excited to see him play. You have to assume he's going to take over center field for the Cubs. Hopefully he can stick in the bigs and it makes sense. He's still a young guy, and I mean, he's got power, speed. He's 5-tool player, at least in the Japanese baseball league. So I'm hoping that translates just for the good of baseball,
yeah.
not for the good of the Cubs.
Well, fortunately, at least for next year, um, they are in real rebuild mode, and I don't think anyone is really expecting them to compete. Of course, you never know; people can pop and things can go well, but I'm pegging Cubs at third place next year. That's my prediction for the Cubs.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. The thing that really stumps me is the Marcus Stroman signing because of
Yeah,
its high dollar, short length, which doesn't really align with how I think you and I and a lot of folks are evaluating the Cubbies right now. Maybe it's a thing that they're going to let him have a good year, trade him, try to get more pieces, and build up around. And I think also a really big question for the Cubs coming into this year is: are they going to extend Wilson Contreras?
hmm
It would be kind of bizarre to me if none of the core from the championship was extended. He seems like the obvious candidate because he's still there.
he's the
Uh,
only one left. Yeah,
I thought there was a pretty good chance this morning the Yankees signed Anthony Rizzo. I thought there was a pretty good sign or a pretty good chance that the Cubs were going to bring him back because it seemed like it wasn't going to be for high dollars. And I think just the ticket sales alone in Chicago that you get from bringing back Rizzo probably pays for itself because he is the
yeah.
guy. But yeah, I'm surprised to see that. I really don't fully understand it, but I do agree. Like they definitely seem to have a move forward plan And based on, their like last quarter of season last year, they had some pretty good player evaluations. Some guys came out of nowhere and they played better than at least than I expected. So like, don't sleep.
Schwindel.
Yeah, don't
And
sleep on the Cubbies just yet. I don't know.
yeah,
Oh crap, what's the new GM's name? It's not Theo. It's Theo's little buddy.
is it Hoyer?
Yeah, Jed Hoyer.
Yeah.
Obviously seems smart, and Cardinals fans should be worried about that.
Yeah. Well, I imagine, I think, teams that are smart like that also make some of these signings with the intent to trade if things go well. And I could see Stroman being a part of that as well.
Sure.
I don't think he has a no trade clause, but even if he does that, you can usually get around that. We'll talk about it later. We're going to talk about more of these signings later when we talk about the broader league. But I think of like the Nationals signing Nelson Cruz. That to me is another one that feels like if he continues, no one thinks he's going to. Rather, everyone thinks at some point this has to end. This has to stop, right? So teams don't want to take the gamble on signing Nelson Cruz. But if he does continue his dominance as a DH, he could be a huge trade chip for them at midseason. Um, so the last team to really dig in on, they haven't made a lot of major changes, but they also are already pretty stacked, at least in a few departments. The Brewers, I think, if it wasn't for what the Mets were starting to do, could arguably have the best rotation in the NL. I know that is, there's a couple teams that you throw into that bucket, but I think if you said the Brewers have the best rotation in the NL, you wouldn't have to argue for very long. When you look at Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, I would rather face almost any other three than those three, except for maybe Scherzer and DeGrom in New
Yeah, I mean
York.
DeGrom scrub, and I'm still pretty terrified of that.
Right, right.
And
So
their two placeholders for those scrubs are Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett now. So I
yeah,
definitely give it to the Mets. Obviously, they're aged and injury prone, so we'll see how that plays out. I think the thing that you like so much about the Brewers starting rotation is not only are they young, not only do
right,
they throw like 98, but they're cheap and they're just now like Freddie Peralta and Corbin Burns, like just now are figuring it out.
right. They're
So
still on the up.
yeah,
Yeah,
you have to be afraid of what that is going to look like, especially Freddie Peralta can stay effective for the entire year. That's
right.
scary.
And their bullpen continues to be great. Still, fronted by Josh Hader. Their pitching is what carried them to the division championship last year, and I think
Did
uh, it could again this year.
did Devin Williams punch a wall last year? Am I remembering that right?
I think that's right.
He was
Yeah,
drunk or something like that and then hit a wall.
yeah. I think we should just stop letting baseball players go near walls.
Or you remember those like blow up toys that we had when we were kids where you could box your brother? Just making like
Yeah.
force pitchers to walk around with that. They're like sockem boppers, sockem bop.
No,
That's
is it? I kept thinking Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and I knew that was wrong. So I think you're right.
wait, what did I just call it?
Oh no, Sock'em Boppers,
Soccer bopper? I'm looking it up.
Bopper.
Soccer boppers.
No, it's not soccer. Or
It's
those
yeah, no, they're soccer boppers. I found them. They're still available on
soccer
Amazon.
boppers.
Soccer boppers. They are $12.78 on Amazon Prime right now for one pair.
I hope you order some for yourself.
Well, they should make pitchers wear that after their starts.
I think that's a good call.
I'm
Or at least those
yeah.
big the big like Hulk hands.
Yeah. I have one of those with a beer.
I know
Like
you do.
you could fit a beer in it.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So
The Brewers.
the Brewers. Speaking of beer, the Brewers. What a
Hey,
segue.
we're professional podcasters.
Yes, their problem last year, if you could call it that, because they did win the division pretty handedly, and the playoffs are whatever. But on the full stretch of the division, the year, the division, they were pretty much clearly the best team, and but their problem was their offense. We've seen Yelich is maintained his state of decline. Wong was hurt or ineffective for a lot of the year. Some of these guys that they've relied on over the years were just not there, and ultimately that was their decline in the playoffs. So they've done at least one key signing that we've got written here, but I think this is all, but it actually feels pretty big. They've signed Andrew McCutchen, former star of the NL Central.
Yeah.
We're used to this guy. Personal favorite of mine over the years. He is set to be their starting DH, and I assume will spell some guys in the outfield from time to time, but I think they want to keep him healthy, keep him in the lineup. He's going to be their DH.
Yeah, I think, probably makes a lot of sense to have him probably be one or two in the order. He still walks at a decent rate. He kind of had a down year last year. But I actually thought this would be an interesting target for the Cardinals for a DH
Yeah.
role. I think he's an interesting target for the DH role just because his hands are still quick. He still has a good eye. And I mean, he's Andrew McCutchen. That's just, I think people are willing to bet on a guy like that. But yeah, there's, seems to have been over the past, I don't know, handful of years that players who are going over to Milwaukee, people like hitting there. I know Jim Edmonds has talked about it on the broadcast how they just have an awesome batter's eye. All that's kind of those intangible crap that you can't really dig your fingers into. But I wouldn't be surprised if McCutchen has a decent year. I don't think he's going to compete for MVP or anything like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on base at a decent clip, hits a few dingers, and is a pain in the Cardinals' ass all year.
Yeah.
It's kind of what he does. He's done that for
Right.
the past like 12 years.
Yeah. So, McCutchen, is able to return to some degree of consistency. Maybe Hura returns to what everyone thought he was when he broke into the league, and Yelich even returns to 75-80% of what, he used to be. The Brewers are set up to be a very, very good team, and they already were last year. So, when we look at this division, I think it's pretty fair to say it's a two-horse race, barring any insanity from the Cubs, where a bunch of these guys pop that we weren't expecting. And I'm a Cardinal fan, so I'm a diehard homer over here. So my prediction is Cardinals win the division, Brewers in second, making the playoffs, Cubs third, Reds fourth, and then Pirates fifth. But I think we all have to be very prepared for the
Yeah.
Brewers to continue in that rotation, just to blow everyone out of the water.
And,
It is a clear advantage that the Brewers have over the Cardinals, especially with some of the news that's coming out of spring training.
we should also take a minute to note that the Pirates did sign Daniel Vogelbach. So look out.
The thumb.
Yeah.
I bet he's gonna pop some dingers for the Pirates. He's a full-time starting job.
Oh, yeah. He'll probably get 600 plate appearances for the first time. So that might be interesting. But yeah, that's about all they've done.
Yeah, it's a big boy. Uh, so yeah, NL Central really shaping up to look kind of what it's looked like for a little while now. Top heavy. Each of the teams racking up wins against the bottom of the half to inflate their win total and make the playoffs. So we've talked about all the other teams in the division. Let's move into what the Cardinals have done since we've returned from the lockout. We talked about Mats in the previous episode, so we're not really going to touch on that. The Cardinals have not done much in the week since returning, but they have done a little bit. So Ben, why don't you outline what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think the only thing that they've done that I don't think excited is the right word, but I guess is a smart and frugal move is signing Drew Verhagen. So Verhagen spent the last 2 years in Japan. He was good. He was not great. A lot of times you'll see pitchers from the MLB go over to Japan and dominate, and then they'll, get a deal like Mikolaus or Lindbaum, although Lindbaum hasn't had a great return to the MLB. But Verhagen was fine. He operated as a swingman. He was mostly starting in Japan. Guy's 6'6", throws right-handed. He's a big dude. And when he's coming out of the bullpen, he's high 90s. When he's starting, he's low 90s. I think if I had to look into the crystal ball, I'm hoping that, a Liberatore is the type of person, or an Oviedo is the type of person that is stealing most of those starts. And he's mostly a bullpen piece, maybe a mid leverage righty. Like I said, if he's coming out of the bullpen, he's hitting 97, 98, 99. So yeah, nothing. I don't think we're going to expect him to take the closer's job. I don't think we're going to expect him to come in and take the fifth starter's job. But it's a guy that can throw innings. He's had a decent success, and he improved on his control a little bit while in Japan. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's much else. He's 6'6". That's kind of fun, I guess. I don't know what else there is to talk about him. He isn't. I don't know. So
Yeah.
those are kind of my thoughts. I think like his role will be similar to that of John Gant. Maybe hopefully less walks.
Yeah, I was thinking he's like Mozeliak went to try to find his JA Hap before we needed him, like
Yeah.
we did last year.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's apt, although underwhelming. Speaking of underwhelming, another right-handed pitcher that the Cardinals went out and got, Nick Wickgren, is with the Indians Guardians last year. Threw up a 5 ERA, threw up a 5 FIP, throws low 90s, right-hander. He's got a decent changeup. This
Get him in here.
I really hope this is a depth piece. Maybe he finds something. Maybe there's something the Cardinals see in him that the Guardians didn't see. That being said, I think the Guardians of Indians, whatever. Can we just call them the Guardians now? We don't have to
Yes,
refer to them as the Indians
it's
anymore.
done. They're
Okay.
Guardians.
So
Yeah.
the Guardians have been like a sort of pitching factory recently over the past like 5-6 years. I kind of trust that they can get everything they can out of a pitcher. I don't know if we're going to find anything new with Wickgren. He signed a big league contract, so he's making like 1.2 million. I talked about the repertoire. He's a guy.
He'll be there to
He'll
throw
be
a
there.
pitch.
Definitely more
Yeah.
excited about Verhagen over Wickgren, but
Yeah.
you know,
Me too. Yeah, I to me they're just stacking depth. I think we already see some gaps in the rotation. It doesn't take very many injuries for the rotation to start to become a problem, just like it was last year. And it was that taxes the bullpen. So, start to stack up these guys now just to be prepared. So we don't have to reach deep into the minors to pull out guys like Oviedo before they're ready. That's to me what this looks like. I think trying to model some of the success that happened from last year, get some of these throwaway guys, see if he can come in, bring them to the better defense, maybe to a better ballpark, see what you can find. Low risk, hopefully. I won't say high reward, but hopefully low risk, some reward, and just stack them. That's the only other guy we have here is Zach McAllister, who they signed to a minors deal. What do you
yeah.
know about Zach McAllister?
I started to look him up, and then I just got bored and I didn't take any notes.
And
He's
that's the kind of coverage we promise to bring to you week in and week out here on Talking About
well,
Birds.
Nate. He throws another average fastball, and he's got an average off speed offering. End of story. I think like right now it is where we should go back to the early off season, the first half of the off season. And I think all Cardinals fans could look up to the sky and say, why didn't we sign Luis Garcia?
Right.
It didn't go to the Padres for much. He arguably saved the bullpen more than anyone else at the end of last year. Give the guy another look. I found that extremely frustrating. It's hard not to fall in love with the 98-mile-an-hour sinker.
Right.
And that guy, like the energy and everything, it's just fun to watch. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I was pretty bummed when they didn't sign him either. And it obviously was a choice.
yes.
And not some sort of market dynamic. So you've got another note here, and I guess we can kind of talk about some of the rumors still going around. The Cardinals free agency. I think
Well,
most people believe the Cardinals are not done yet, but whether it's going to be big or not, I guess we'll find out.
So yeah, Nate's right. I wrote down on our little outline here, referencing the idea of the Cardinals looking at Colin Moran. The reason I wrote that down is, well, first off, it's been reported a couple of times. Second off, seems like the kind of deal that the Cardinals would go for, just because he's a guy
Yeah.
that you could probably invite to big league camp, see what he does, and sign him for very low, maybe some incentive things, or incentives in the deal to earn some extra money. But yeah, I didn't write it down because I thought, ooh, yes, Colin Moran, what an add to the team. More just like, ooh, this really feels like something the Cardinals might do, like a Brandon Moss type signing, that kind of thing. And I think it's interesting to talk about only in the sense that he has hit right-handed pitchers above average. The Cardinals really don't have a lot of lefty hitters. Over his career, he's got almost an 800 OPS against right-handed pitching. His OPS plus is 109, and that is by no means anything to write home about. But that is an above average left-handed hitter that you could probably get for extremely cheap. So my kind of thought on that is, I guess that's good. I guess he could spell Nolan if needed. I guess he could spell Goldie if needed. But isn't that why we have Nolan Gorman?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to even sell myself on it, even though I was
You
the
were
one that
trying.
brought it up. Yeah, I'm trying to get myself there. And now that I've talked out loud about it, I'm kind of like, well, I don't know.
Um, yeah, if it's a invite to spring training, for what spring training there will be, that's fine. I would be bummed if he got a roster spot, because I think we're all in on Gorman. Although it certainly seems like they're planning for Gorman to start in AAA, at least right now. But the games haven't started, so we'll see. I'm excited about the Cardinals signing Moran for one reason and one reason alone. Just to bring around, to add some cosmic justice to the meme that is several years old at this point. But there's that poster of a guy with a Cardinals shirt and a bandana, and he looks great, and he's holding a big sign that says "Get a brain, Moran," having misspelled moron, but had it spelled Moran the same way this guy's last name is spelled. So we'd have a lot of fun, I think,
Yeah.
for an hour or two online if they sign him just with that old image and his last name. So
What the hell are we
um,
supposed to do, you moron? That is an Animal House reference that I
yeah,
delivered poorly.
it
So
was
you're
good though.
welcome. Thank you.
Um, so I'm here. Hey, you come to this show for breaking news. Zach Greinke, who some people thought the Cardinals should pursue, has just signed with the Kansas City Royals. So
Oh, well, that's
uh,
cute.
take that one off the board. I kind of thought he was just going to retire, but I also think he might pitch till he's 75 years old.
I think
So
he likes the money. I think he
that's
likes
fair.
yeah, I think he likes the money, and, I could also see him, parlaying that into a front office job with Kansas City because I think he wants to do that too. But,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a bummer. He would've been really fun to watch. I don't think there was any real shot of the Cardinals signing him.
No.
Although early this offseason, I did advocate. I thought the Cardinals should have gone for Scherzer, Kershaw, Greinke, Verlander, out with the young and in with the old.
Yeah.
Well, they've obviously all found homes.
And most of them for a lot of money.
Yeah, too bad.
Um, yeah. So the only other thing I guess we'll talk about here, as far as spring training or free agency goes, is there have been sort of two rumors going right now that I think are of note that we'll touch on briefly. We talked about it last week a little bit, but I wanted to bring it up again. Apparently, the Yankees have shown interest in Paul DeYoung, and the Cardinals have at least checked in multiple times with Trevor Story. Uh, Here's what I think has happened. You can tell me what you think. I think that the Cardinals have received interest in Paul DeYoung, probably light interest. No one is going and breaking the bank for Paul DeYoung. And part of their due diligence to decide whether they should or should not move Paul DeYoung is what would it cost them to replace him on the free agent market. So if we trade Paul DeYoung, then maybe we sign Trevor Story. So let's see what Trevor Story's costs would be. So that'll help us decide if we're going to trade Paul DeJong or not. So I believe that these are likely tied together, which ultimately makes me feel like neither are going to happen. Those are two pretty big things that would need to come through, and especially with the Yankees' recent um, acquisitions. So I just don't see it happening as much fun as I think we both agree it would be to have Trevor Story on this team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's got to be dead in the water, especially with the deal that Cashman made the other day, getting Isaiah Kinder Falefa and Josh Donaldson. If the Yankees did want to trade for Paul, he'd be on that side of the infield. That Isaiah Kinder Falefa is definitely a better fielder, and Josh Donaldson is just a better player. So I guess they could use him as a floating spot, but they have too many people on the infield as it is. They
Yeah,
still have Glaber. They still have
Glaber.
Glaber. They still have Rugned, which is weird. And they still have DJ LeMahieu. So they have too many players
Yeah,
for like quality players, while Rugi isn't that great. Obviously good enough for the Yankees. It just isn't going to happen. I would not be surprised. Like all the shortstops are soaked up unless you want to go spend a bunch of money. I would not be surprised if other teams are interested in Paul DeJong or Sosa or Tommy Edman. I don't know. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to move from those guys. At least it doesn't really feel like it. The only thing I want to add to the conversation is that I feel like I've seen on Twitter that Trevor Story wouldn't be that much of an upgrade from Paul DeJong. I just think that is a terrible take. I think Trevor Story
get him, Ben.
I think Trevor Story is far better than Paul DeJong. I think Paul DeJong is a steady fielder, not a great fielder. And I think that as long as Trevor Story comes back with a healthy elbow, he'll come and put up, in between 3 and 5 WAR easy. As I've talked about in the past, his power speed combo is underrated. I think since he has come up to the big leagues, he has hit the most home runs by any shortstop. He's just a better player. It would be an improvement and something that we talk about with Cardinals all the time. I feel like I'm going to say this 75 times this season. They're a hard team to upgrade. This would be an upgrade, not a massive upgrade. It's not a Carlos Correa upgrade because there's like two of those, I guess,
Right.
if you want to throw Corey Seager in that conversation. You can't upgrade like that all the time, but this would make the team better. He is a very good player. I'm sure he's going to have a great year wherever he goes, and it's definitely not going to be with the Rockies.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to
You're
let that
setting the record straight.
setting the record straight. Paul DeJong is not as good as Trevor Story. I find it silly to even have to have that conversation. But
Well, everyone looks at Trevor Story's splits, and he has something like a 750 OPS out of cores. And I think that there is some merit to that, but I think there's a bit of an overcorrection to assume that his 80 away games per year, which include a ton of different factors, is would be directly copy pasted over to 160 games in another for another team. Is he the 900 plus OPS player that he often is for the Rockies? Maybe not, but I think most people, myself and yourself included, believe the Coors effect is overrated at this point. We see good players come from the Rockies and rake all over the place all the time. Sometimes players even improve. Look at what DJ LeMahieu did with the
exactly.
Yankees after leaving the Rockies. So it's not a cut and dry thing. And, I
There's so
think,
many factors to it. Nolan Arenado has talked about how a slider breaks different in Denver than it does somewhere else. So if you're on a long homestand, you get used to a certain break and then you have to readjust. There's the
yeah,
offensive environment that exists in the NL West, the team quality that exists in the NL West. There's so much to it. I think I just find the conversation silly.
yeah. But that could also be all the lack of oxygen your brain is receiving because you live in Denver. So
Sure.
it could be that also.
That's yeah. I can't argue with that. So we'll just keep going.
All right, moving on. Before we get into our next segment, I want to take a moment to remind everyone that this show is supported on Patreon. We are trying to grow the show, grow what we can do, and what sort of content we can bring to you. If you enjoy the show and want to support it, go to patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Anyone who joins gets to join, will be invited to join our new Discord, trying to build a little community in there. We truly appreciate anyone who listens to the show, and we really appreciate anyone who takes the time to throw us a couple bucks. We love doing this, and we really want to continue doing it. Shout out to Daniel Shoptaw and Reagan Kelly, our first two patrons. So thank
Let's
you for being a
go.
part of the community. C70, we're gonna get you on the show. Very soon. One of the next few episodes will have to be a C70 focused episode. We miss talking to you. Uh, so yeah, and again, if you can't support us on Patreon, we totally understand. There's a lot going on in the world right now. But if you can spend a few minutes and give us a review on iTunes, it really helps. We had to restart our feed with this new launch, and we lost all the old reviews that we had. So we're trying to sort of rebuild. So thank you for your time and supporting us in that way as well. Ben, where can people find us and support us online as well?
Yeah, on IG, find us at Talking About Birds. We are just starting that off as well. Please, give us a like, give us a follow there. On Twitter, Talk About Birds. That is, I think, probably where most of our conversation is going. We got really good jokes on there. Please follow there. You can follow Nate personally at Nate STL, and you can follow me at Samorka, although I don't tweet, so you're just wasting your time. If you want to send in any questions, thoughts, tell us we suck, tell us we messed something up, please email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And if you have a good question, maybe we'll answer it on the show. Yeah, I think that's everything. Please, other than that, word of mouth is really important. Share this with any of your Cardinals friends.
Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your kids,
Just go
your
out into the
sister.
street and shout it. Shout it.
Get a can of spray paint. I want to see hashtag TAB
Yes.
all over St. Louis.
Yes. Ruin your community by spreading our good word.
All right. So next we're going to talk about what news we have gotten out of spring training so far, or for what it's worth. There have been no games yet. That's happening this Friday. First game, Cardinals, Astros, Wainwright, Verlander. What more can you ask for? Baseball's back,
Unbelievably.
baby.
Yes. Hell yes. I am so excited.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, I'm
feel like a fool. Like I have checked to try to buy Rockies opening day tickets 6 times already, and they don't even go on sale until Friday. I am so
yeah,
pumped.
I think I'm gonna try to go to the home opener here in St. Louis. That's always a a holiday here in St. Louis,
Hmm.
and I love being a part of it. And if I go, I'm gonna try to boo the hell out of Bill DeWitt when he comes out on the field. I'm gonna try to get
Yes.
as many people around me to boo him too. But I'm also just excited to be back at the stadium and be a part of it. But so how would you classify the news that is coming out of spring training thus far here early on?
Ghoulish, spooky,
Oh no,
horrifying.
don't no. We can't keep making baseball spooky,
Well,
okay?
it keeps happening. The Alex Reyes news is worrisome. We know that he is having some shoulder issues again. He's going back for reevaluation, and I believe he is scheduled to get a shot, like an anti-inflammatory, anti-pain shot from Dr. Andrews, who is Mister Repair Your Elbow. So that's horrible news. Obviously, this kid just can't catch a break. He is, the glass cannon, I guess, is what we'd call him. And I think probably even more horrifying, although I think, in the offseason, it was really easy for us to all dream on what Alex Reyes was going to do with his really, really good first half last year. Jack Flaherty. Now, if you watch what Ali Marmol said earlier today and what Jack said last night after they were kind of done working out, he said that it was just general soreness. They're going in for reevaluation. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet. But if I had to give this a rating, I'm probably like a 7 or an 8. I'm pretty worried about what this means you have like he is the guy. I think you could make an argument that he is the most important player on the Cardinals, as far as like he establishes the pitching staff. And we've said a couple episodes ago, I think on our first episode, we really don't like the idea of the Cardinals having to rely on Adam Wainwright to lock down the entire starting pitching staff again, the second year in a row, essentially. I guess really it's over the past like decade and a half or so.
Yeah.
But
12 of the last 15 years or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah,
and we are talking about this is why Mo's going after depth. I think that everyone who's listening to this, and everybody who's on Twitter would like the depth to be a little more high quality. But this is a real concern. I think you can't have any real expectations of what the Cardinals are going to get from Jack Flaherty. I don't think the Cardinals can have any real expectations of what they're going to get from Dakota Hudson and Miles Mikolas. We just don't know what to expect. Those guys could give us 200 innings apiece. They could give us 20. And I think the fact that it's happening this early is pretty scary. And I wonder, it's impossible not to wonder, similar to the Fernando Tatis injury, the motorcycle injury, obviously the circumstances are much different. But if the lockout had not happened, would Jack Flaherty have been getting, the best treatment in the world over the last 3 months? And there would have been more of a plan rather than coming in, oop, he's starting to warm up and, ooh, there's tightness, there's soreness, that could mean anything. Especially, the shoulder is scary. I don't have to
yeah,
tell anybody else that. You all know that, but the shoulder is very scary. Makes me think of Jaime
scariest part
Garcia.
of the human body.
I had an orthopedic
But
surgeon tell me one time that the human shoulder does not make sense. It should
what's
not
going
work.
on in there?
Yeah. It's just like a ball on a plate, with a bunch of meat wrapped around it.
Well,
I'm
that
a,
sounds delicious.
it just sounded really smart there. I am a doctor. Um,
This is medical advice.
But yeah, no, I'm big sad. Not happy about that. I really want to see Jay Flair, which we're calling him. I really wanted to
Wait,
see
we
Jay Flair.
decided we're explicitly not calling him Jay Flair in the
I
last
thought we
episode.
I thought we decided that that's it. It's bad, but that's it.
Oh, okay. I had a different takeaway from us deciding it's bad.
Tweet at us at Talking About Birds on Twitter. Tweet at us what nickname should Jay Flair have? Because I
I'm going to
agree,
throw
we
out
need to give him one.
there.
Jackie Boy.
I was going to say Jackie Flames.
That sucks.
It's better than Jackie Boy or whatever you just said.
I'm not saying mine is good, but yours was worse.
Jackie Flames? Come on.
Flapjack.
Flapjack. That's not better than Jackie Flames.
Because he's a Cardinal, he's flying away. Flap.
Flames because he throws hard. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you never want to go into a season with shoulder problems. It doesn't tend to get better, but we're seeing a lot of really reserved answers from the organization right now, and that could be one of two things: either they don't want to start panic over something that's pretty normal, you're sore from from a weird off season, or it's like there's real concern and they just don't want to start broadcasting that already. It is strange. I don't totally understand the dynamics of the lockout as far as like players seeking medical care, because they were obviously locked out from
It was
the
99
team.
days. Yeah.
Yeah, from the team resources. But were they not able to go to a doctor on their own? Or was it something that Flaherty never really recognized until he got to spring training and started throwing?
So
Same with
he said that there's general soreness throughout the offseason. I do know that the team doctors are team employees and they're MLB employees, so they
right.
cannot talk to them. What I wonder is, I'm sure that they can go see another doctor. I wonder how the team feels about that. I wonder if they instruct, people who are in a situation like Jack, hey, do this. Please don't go talk to anybody. We'll talk to you when we get back. Not knowing that it was going to be 99 days. That's a really interesting question. I
Yeah.
wish we should find that answer out.
Yeah, because I don't know. I try hard not to put myself in professional athletes' shoes because those are maybe the last shoes on earth that I could fill. But it just seemed to me like if you're an athlete and you are feeling something, same with the Tatis situation. And there are other guys that this is happening to throughout the league. These are just two of the higher profile ones where they're coming in with some sort of injury and they're just like, well, I couldn't go to the doctor, for the last 3 months. And maybe that's just the case. Maybe they are truly restricted.
I mean, they are large babies. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, "Oh, no team doctor. That mean no doctor."
Yeah, they
Um,
are large babies.
but they're also men of means, so you think, it's a confusing thing. I don't
That's what
know.
I'm saying. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I would be like, my shoulder is my entire existence, and it don't feel good. I'm gonna go to the urgent care.
Right. You
So,
would also think, I'm Fernando Tatis. I should keep myself healthy. I am not going to go I'm assuming he was drunk, although that's definitely me just making
I
an
wouldn't
assumption.
make that assumption. That's a little unfair. People fall off of motorcycles for all number of
I
reasons.
guess it's irrelevant. You're driving up, you get in multiple motorcycle crashes in the off season. So like, I'm sure
I,
there's some I'm invincible type thought
yeah,
process going on there.
I saw that the Padres, um, at least felt like they could have lobbied to have his mega deal voided off of this accident, but they have chosen not to in order to maintain a good relationship with their superstar, which I think is cool. I think that's good. I mean, I think it really is just a raw baseball decision. They signed maybe the best player in the league to a very long team friendly contract. So um,
It
I
would
don't
be
think,
insane to go after him. Yeah.
yeah. But I just thought that was interesting that like you don't really hear talk about teams being able to void contracts very often. And yeah, crashing your motorcycle multiple times during the off season. That's fair. I think that's fair if they wanted to go ahead and go try and void it. Um, but yeah, the Reyes and Flaherty news was really dominating. I think the current mindset of Cardinal fans. Outside of that, it's mostly just been standard early spring training things. I've been watching some. I watched Arenado take some BP off of Matt's earlier today. Looked great, felt great. Just enjoying the boys down at Spring, down at Jupiter, having a good time. So
Yeah, I think it is notable, although unquantifiable, the reports that are coming out early about Arenado. People saying he's stinging the ball to all fields and all of that kind of stuff. It all seems much more positive than it was last year. So I don't know what that means. Maybe he's made an adjustment, but kind of exciting, I guess. I'm excited to
yeah,
watch him play in spring.
I mean, I think this is best shape of your life talk. You don't get a lot of guys coming into spring training being like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it this year.
Yeah.
This one's not my year. It's pretty exclusively the opposite. But and he's always been very self aware and talked about his desire to be better and to improve and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I do appreciate him saying that like last year for by his standards was not the year he wanted. And I guess like technically it was a down year offensively for him, but he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. So down year is still. I think we were all pretty happy with the year that we got from Nolan Arenado last year.
Yeah.
If he wants to return to peak, 26-year-old Arenado, of course we'll all take it. But I don't think anyone's going to be too upset if we just continue to get what we got last year from him.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, just locking down that position like he has, that has been a rotating door for the Cardinals is,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not going to add anything to the Nolan conversation. He's great. Can't wait to see him play.
Yeah. The last guy I think we want to talk about in this segment is who may be an answer to some of these problems, Jordan Hicks. He is coming in, and this is the sort of best shape of your life conversation that I actually am more interested in hearing because he's coming in with details about injuries that he has finally fully recovered from. So, at least according to him, he has finally fully recovered from his Tommy John and some lingering smaller injuries that occurred during his return. And he's feeling now coming into spring training, this is the best that his arm has felt, since before the Tommy John stuff. And that to me actually means something, and has a more material impact. And um, he's a guy that has served in multiple different bullpen roles over the years. At times, has looked like the best reliever in baseball, and then at times looks like he can't find the strike zone and is going to be out of the league. Uh,
And at
the
times pops Yadier Molina's testicle.
At least one time. Um, oh my god, that was
Sorry.
I, like I don't even know
Mhm.
why did you say that?
I'll never not remember that because it horrifies me.
Yeah, that is the worst thing that can happen
Yeah.
on the field, I think.
Something I read him talking about was that he feels like he is most effective and most healthy, chilling at 96 to 99. And
Yeah,
I just found that hilarious that he's like, no, guys, I'm going to pull it back a little bit. So I'm only going to top out around 100, which
yeah,
is, that just speaks to his talent. And yeah, I think I cut you off, but I think what you're getting at, like, we want to see him try out as a starter, right? I think it makes
yes,
a lot of sense. And also, this is just conventional baseballism. Stretch him out in spring. If it doesn't work out, you can put him in the bullpen really easy, and maybe he can be a swing guy. But I think something that I heard is they like the idea of having him on some type of schedule. Obviously,
hmm
every 5 or 6 games makes a lot of sense to facilitate that. I don't know what he was a starter before. Let's try it out.
right.
The kid's obviously unbelievably talented, so I say run him out there until it doesn't work.
Yeah, he got into the bullpen because of a need and his ability to throw as hard as he could. If you remember, he kind of leapfrogged through the minors and went to the majors very quickly, because of his velocity and the need of more support in the bullpen. But I think the Cardinals have rightfully recognized that he has a starter's repertoire as well, and I'm all in on him getting a real long shot at the rotation. Even if there's a need in the bullpen, I'd rather see him staying at AAA or wherever, working on that starters, workload. Um, and it's obvious he's gonna get spots, even if the normal five are just always healthy. You need a six starter every once in a while. Guys just need breaks, injuries, small injuries that make you miss starts. We thought Alex Reyes might be that six starter type, but he's already, running into the problems that we've already talked about. So, like, there's gonna be a need, and I can think of nothing better than to have Jordan Hicks, and then also, while on the topic, I just throw out. Let's get Libertor up there too. I think we're going to see him in the rotation at some point this year. But anyway, Hicks should be a starter, or at least we should see it. Give him a real extended shot at a rotation spot. So let's round out this our topics here and talk a little bit more broadly. The end of the lockout was marketed as is what was going to be a moment of insanity for baseball and for the transactions. Huge list of big time free agents still out there, and to some degree, it has been a little bit of chaos, um, but not really in the way I think I was anticipating. We've not seen these huge free agents flying off the shelf like we thought we would. A lot of especially from the position player standpoint, lots of guys still out there looking for jobs. But the more shocking things have been a couple trades that have happened over the last few days, and I thought it would just be fun to talk about, get your take on it. I think the biggest one, uh, at least in my mind, is the Braves' decision to not make an offer to, or make a suitable offer to Freddie Freeman, and subsequent, what felt like immediate acquisition and extension of one of my personal favorite players, Matt Olson. Uh, Crazy news day for in this particular transaction. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is a very smart baseball move and a very bad move for fans. I think it's a shame that Freddie is not going to finish his career in Atlanta. Probably will never be in Atlanta again. I think if I was a betting man, I would say he's probably going to be a Blue Jay, and he'll have a ton of fun there and be beloved there. But it's a very good trade. Matt Olson is a top 10 player in the league. He is getting better. He's gotten better every year. Massive power, great glove, quick enough for a first baseman. He's big lefty bat, and that with that short porch in Atlanta, he'll be great. And that team deal is really good for the team. And it's hard for anyone who's 26 or 27 years old or however old Matt Olson is to say, no thanks. I don't want $168 million. Obviously, the Braves have done a very good job at locking up young, talented players for team friendly deals. Ciazzi Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr., who both signed for way less than Matt Olson did. They did have to give up a lot to get him, though. Langeliers is a very good catcher who can hit a bit and is a fantastic defender. Christian Pache is a Gold Glove. Would not be surprised if he takes the Gold Glove in the AL this year in center field. His bat's dragging a little bit. But those are two really good prospects. So I have to say the A's did a fine job, even though I hate what they're doing. I put them in the same camp as the Reds. They could have pushed in a little bit harder and been really good, but they're deciding to take a step back and play this. So I guess at least for A's fans, at least you got some interesting guys to watch. I have to imagine Pache is probably going to start in center this year, with Ramon Laureano still serving his PED suspension. I would guess that he's going to hold on to that, but they might have the best defensive outfield in the league this year, which is kind of fun for A's fans, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say all in all, it's, interesting, very interesting. Anthopoulos crying or fighting back tears when he was making the announcement. I don't know if I believe that or not, but was, it was slightly charming. And I don't know. This is kind of like what happens when a corporation owns a baseball team. You do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
All that to be said, it's impossible not to compare this to the Pujols deal. Worked out
Right.
really well for the Cardinals. Although I think a lot of Cardinals fans would still be like, it would have been great to watch Albert
Yeah.
either way. But yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. It's exciting on one end and disappointing on the other.
Yeah. A couple of thoughts on what you were saying. First of all, I think as an Oakland Athletics fan, you at least have to have some you know, solace in the fact that the team has kind of always done this and is always competitive, So this isn't, if I'm an A's fan, I'm probably not feeling as bad as I am if I'm a Reds fan, where it's like, oh, you traded all of our good players, and I have no faith that you're going to be able to restock us with good players. Whereas the A's are kind of always doing this, cycle of produce a guy, trade him. Josh Donaldson came out of the A's. Like they do this, and and Simeon, and they manage to um, field competitive teams and make a run at a very difficult division pretty frequently. And while this might be a step back for 2022, I don't know. I feel pretty confident that the A's are going to be right back in it pretty soon.
They got talent in this deal, and they got talent from the Chapman deal too. So
Yeah,
they're going to be fine. Like you said, I think we all have some faith in Billy Bean and the baseball ops folks in
yeah.
Oakland.
They made a movie about him.
They sure
Uh,
did.
and to the other point, I'm a little torn on, I'm usually the first in line to yell like corporate greed and whatnot at really anyone. And I think that is in play here to a degree, but I also think like just from a baseball decision, Freddie Freeman is 32. Obviously, he's been an MVP caliber player for a while, but if he's really looking for 5 to 8 years in a deal, I think you can understand why any team, even, his hometown or his, the team that brought him here, like may be a little gun shy about that. And it might have been more of a baseball decision than it was just a he wants a lot of money decision.
Oh, yeah, and I don't want to be misconstrued. I agree. It was a good move. I would, if I could have Matt Olson on Matt Olson is a better player, I think, right
Yeah.
now. And I think Matt Olson you could easily project him to be better than Freddie Freeman over the next 4 years. I'm more just kind of speaking from the fans' point of view. I
Yeah,
know how I would feel, and I'm sure when Freddie does sign, then we'll be able to have a lot better of an opinion on that dollar amount and that length, and then we can kind of get into it more. But I would, if I was building a team today, I would take Matt Olson over Freddie Freeman.
yeah. Same. So just it's an interesting one. It is kind of like Pujols, but there's also its differences. We'll see. It seems at least right now as we record, the Rays are really big in on Freddie Freeman, which makes you think the dollar can't be insane. So if he
I
goes and
just
signs
don't see it.
for like 125 or something like that to the Rays, then I'll be a little more like, come on, Braves, you could have, there's a DH now, sign him, and he's your legacy.
One could
So
argue they could still sign him. They could have him and Olson be first base DH together, but
he
that's not
did
going to
just put
happen.
out a big statement thanking Atlanta Braves fans and for all of his time there and how he'll always remember them.
Oh,
So
it's not going to happen. Yeah.
it'd be a pretty wild. He like re-releases it, same statement, just puts at the end like, and that's why I'm glad I'm back. The other big trade is the uh, Yankees acquiring from the Minnesota Twins Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who had just been traded
And
from.
and Ben Rortvert. Don't forget about
Oh yeah.
the swole daddy.
Who they had, and Isaiah Falefa had just been traded from the Rangers to the Twins, and I was thinking about like what a day Matt Olson had, where he was traded and extended in basically the same day, so he became a nearly a fifth of a billionaire in one day that he also changed his position or changed his teams. But Isaiah, at least according to him, on Friday, he was told he was the starting third baseman for the Rangers, and that even if Josh Young had been healthy, it would have been Isaiah's position. On Saturday, he was traded to the Twins, where he was told he's their new starting shortstop, and hope he's not a starting shortstop. And then on Sunday, he's traded to the Yankees. What a life!
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to imagine he's going to be the starter there. He had a pretty interesting. He was super fired up. I like listening to him talk.
Yeah,
He's a bit crazy, but in the good way. Just super intense. So I think he'll go there, take over the shortstop job. I think what's really interesting is that they made the evaluation that Josh Donaldson is better than Gio Gonzalez. So to finish that thought up, it was Josh, Isaiah, and Ben traded for Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. And I guess I probably would have put Gio Urshela and Josh Donaldson closer together than the Yankees did. Obviously, they made the evaluation that Gio was no longer the answer there at third and to move to Josh. So that's interesting. And then obviously, everybody's seen the news about Josh Donaldson and Garrett Cole bearing the hatchet and everything like that. I'm hoping that
right.
there's maybe some pushing and shoving in the locker room that we'll never see. But love that. I mean, Josh Donaldson is a great player to watch. I think the same for Kiner Falefa. And Ben Rortvet might be more interesting than it kind of appears. He is unbelievably strong. He is like a slightly smaller version of Tyler O'Neill, and is a plus defender behind the plate. So
Yeah,
could be a great deal for the Yankees. I don't really get the deal from the Twins side. I know that they're talking about having Gary being the DH. Kind of thought they already had a DH. Um, I guess we'll kind of see how that all plays out. Weird deal. It seems like a salary dump. Maybe the Twins are going to go sign somebody. They'll drop some money somewhere, but it
yeah.
seems one sided. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thought on it.
The read I got on it was that this deal only makes sense for the Twins if they are adding a shortstop or something like that, a middle infielder through free agency, because otherwise, very, very strange deal.
Agreed.
But Josh Donaldson, when healthy, is still pretty good. So he could be very good for the Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah. I like I said, I kind of put him and Gio Urshela closer together then obviously the Yankees evaluated him. Urshela probably a slightly better defender and slightly or definitely a worse offensive player, and obviously the inverse for Donaldson. But that being said, Donaldson is a firecracker, a little chippy. Maybe they wanted some shakeup there. I think the
Yeah.
Yankees have been criticized for being a little too businesslike. So getting away from that's probably good.
Well, and Urshela he's like 31 also. He's not young, and I think everyone's been expecting him to be better. He hasn't been bad, but he also hasn't been great. So, if that's the price you have to pay in order to get a guy like Isaiah or kind of Falafa or even a year or two of Donaldson, like, that might be worth the gamble. Especially if Donaldson fully comes back and has another 40 home run season in that lineup, you
Totes.
know, it should be good. So, last guy we're going to touch on real quick, Carlos Correa, still out there. Do you think he's asking prices too high? Or do you think that people are legitimately worried about all of the trash can shit and that he would be like poorly received on a team? Or what do you think is the delay here?
I think that my if I am trying to put my brain swap places with these GMs, I think what they're thinking is that big body shortstop who plays really, really aggressively all over on offense and defense, and he's had back problems. I think back problems freak people out, especially when you're talking about somebody like I said of his size and his physicality. And anyone who's had back problems knows how chronic those can be and how horrible they can be and debilitating they can be. I think that's where it's at. I think he wants Corey
Yeah.
Seager money, but Corey Seager's back is fine. So I think that's what it's. I think that he's saying I feel good, and people are saying I'm sure you do. I'm not sure I'm going to put a $300 million bet on that. So what I think is going to happen, looking through the crystal ball again, is I think he'll probably sign with the Astros. It'll probably be high AAV, maybe 2 years with an opt out of after the first year. I think he's going to have to do a prove it thing, but I really think that back is freaking people out.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's a good player. He's one of the best players in the MLB, probably the best shortstop in the MLB when he's healthy. But the back and all the things I just said, I think is what is freaking people out. And he wants to make the bag,
Yeah. Secure the bag.
secure the
Yeah,
bag.
I think you're right, and I think he's going to be an Astro. They'll look past all the other things, and whether it's going to be a mega deal or some sort of in between, that's where I think it's going to go. All right. Well, that's going to conclude our the primary, the business end of this episode. But before we end, time to force Ben to play another stupid game. So
Mm-hmm.
we're taking a break from who is this guy? You've
Who is
been
this guy?
you've been great at it, Ben. So I'm giving you a break on it, introducing a new segment. I think if you look at both of us, it's pretty obvious that we love food. And so this uh, this segment is called League Choose.
League choose.
And this segment will be
Wow.
focused on food and baseball related food. So this week, Ben, I have a list. I have an article that was published in USA Today
Okay.
in 2019
Okay.
called Ranking the 10 Craziest Ballpark Foods for the 2019 MLB season.
Okay.
So I've got at least USA Today's opinion on what
Yeah.
were the 10 craziest ballpark foods.
Oh God.
All I'm asking for you to do is you have to guess what stadiums or what teams rather
Okay.
have foods represented on this list.
Okay. Okay.
And uh, 3 strikes and you're out, buddy. All right. So it's going to see how many you can get.
Is this like family food or feud style? Family feud style.
Um, what do you mean?
Like, like there's a category. I say it, and it's like Cincinnati's number one. You get
Oh, sure. Yeah, I
8
can do
point.
it
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
Family Feud, they like poll the audience, and that's how
Yeah.
they come up
But
with the
this is
ranking.
USA Today. Okay.
This is just Andrew Joseph's top 10.
Okay.
Um, and I'll give you bonus points if you can guess what the food is gonna be.
Okay.
Okay.
Right on. All right. I guess I should just go.
Yeah, give me
Okay.
a
Well, I think
team.
so. The first one that comes to mind, and I feel like I'm really picking on the Reds today, but I'm going to go with Cincinnati because of Skyline Chili, and Skyline Chili is absolutely disgusting. Damn
Swing
it!
and a miss.
What?
It's a good guess, but according to this list, that's not a crazy food.
It's like spaghetti with like cheese on it. That's not that. I think that's
It's
crazy.
a chili mac, baby. Wait,
Ugh.
no, do they have
No. Chili Mac
no?
is different than Skyline Chili. Skyline Chili is gross. Chili Mac is fine. Okay. All
It's a
right.
good guess though.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a city who I think that's crazy because they're foodie. I know that they have like sushi and all kinds of interesting things at this stadium, so I think it's a good guess. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers.
Um, that's a home run, baby. You've
Yes.
actually they are represented twice on this list. Number 10, no, sorry, number 9, they've got what's called the uh esquite. It's if you think of like Mexican corn,
Okay.
Mexican street corn.
Yeah.
But it's served in an upside down tiny Dodgers helmet.
Of course. Oh,
It
corn in a
looks
helmet
Yeah, so it's sweet
does
grilled
not
corn,
sound.
mayo, cotija cheese, and chipotle aioli out of a souvenir mini helmet.
Hmm.
Sounds
I
delicious to me. I love a good like Mexican street corn. So that was number
something
9.
about a helmet full of corn does not sound good to me.
They also come in at number 6 on this list
Okay.
with what's called going yard. Can you guess what it is?
Going yard. A 3 foot long hot dog.
You're close. It's a foot long hot dog.
Oh, well, what the hell? That's just false
Oh,
advertising.
wait. Hold on. It's a 16.5-inch jalapeno cheddar sausage topped with grilled onion, roasted corn, and avocado relish with sour cream.
Oh, yeah, I would eat the hell out of
That
that.
sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
So that's the going yard.
Okay.
All right. So you've gotten number 9 and number 6.
Okay. All right. That feels good to at least be on the board. All right. I'm looking at my list here again. I'm going to go with so they have a brand new ballpark and it's Texas, and Texas people like to eat. So I'm going to go with the Rangers as my next guess.
Ben, you've got number 1.
Yes.
So they have uh, an item called the foul pole. Can you guess what it is?
I'm going to guess it is a whole chicken, like a beer can chicken, and then they like wrap it in bacon or something like that.
You again, you're in the ballpark, pun intended. So, um, it is a 2-pound chicken tender. It's
What?
served on a bed of waffle fries with ample dipping sauce options.
So they deep fry like half a chicken?
Yeah, a 2-pound chicken tender.
Who wants that? The whole thing of chicken tenders is they're supposed to be like you dip them in a sauce, and if it's a 2 pound chicken tender, it's just a slab. That's
Yeah,
stupid. That
it's
does not sound that good to me.
no, especially it's Texas. You're at a game. It's 102 degrees out, and you've got this like massive piece of fried meat in your hand.
Also, are you like eating that? Like, is that a fork and a knife chicken tender? Or are you just chomping on? Yeah, I hate that. Texas, you suck.
Well, you've got number 1, so good job, and then
Okay.
number 6 and number 9.
Number 6 and number 9. Okay, that feels good. Oh, I should have been thinking more about my next one. Okay, I am going to. I don't know why this is popping into my head. This is probably a terrible guess. I'm going to guess that the Diamondbacks have some type of like fried snake or reptile or some weird or like a bug. You can buy like chocolate bugs or something like that. So I'm gonna say the Diamondbacks are my next guess.
Ooh, that's a swing and a miss
Swing and a
again,
miss.
my friend.
Okay.
So you should know though that at least according to this article, for many years the Diamondbacks were number one on this list, but now
Mhm.
they're nowhere even on this list. So I don't know. But
So
yeah,
okay, that's lame, and I hate that. I cannot believe Skyline Chili is not on there. That would have been my first overall pick. All right. Trying to say New York, they could, they just serve a lot of people. Maybe they have interesting food there. Never really heard anything like that. Oh God. Well, wait. Okay. Milwaukee has the running of the sausages. I have to assume that the Brewers are on this list somewhere. Their whole thing is around like beer, cheese, and sausage. So give me Milwaukee.
ooh, I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God. What?
Back to the dugout.
I struck
Maybe I
out.
should have. Maybe
Milwaukee
you're.
needs to get their shit together.
Yeah. Um. Maybe I should have given you more guesses, but rules is rules. So
The
I
rules
can't
that you
change them.
arbitrarily made up.
I can't. All right, I'll give you one more guess.
One more guess.
I just like watching you, squirm. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you one more guess, and then I'm just gonna go down the
All
list.
right. Okay. Okay. I just want to make this one count. Okay. I'm going through. I mean, Kansas City, they like food like we like food. It could be them. Seattle's a big foodie town. Maybe they have some weird shit. Oakland, I feel like you'd probably barely buy popcorn there. I Ooh, I think I feel pretty good about Seattle all of a sudden. I'm going to say Seattle, big foodie town, right there on the water. Maybe some fish. I don't know what's going on there, but let's go with the Mariners.
Swing and a miss.
God
Four
bless.
strikes and you're
What?
out.
Okay,
So
give me.
I think there's something, and I could be wrong here because obviously the Dodgers are a very successful team. There's some very successful teams on here, but there's a few of them that makes me think like you're trying to lure people to go to the stadium for your
Sure.
wackiness. Like your AAA and AA teams do, where they get the really weird shit.
Yeah, is it
But
the Grizzlies where you can get the Krispy Kreme double cheeseburger?
yeah, yeah. So, but this I could be way wrong because obviously the Dodgers are twice on here. So, starting at number 10, you have the Coney Dog Egg Roll at Detroit Tigers Stadium.
I mean, I would
So,
eat that, but I hate it at the same
yeah,
time.
it sounds gross, doesn't it? We already did number 9. At number 8, you have the Pittsburgh Cone from the Pittsburgh Pirates,
What?
which is a waffle cone full of kielbasa, pierogi, Swiss cheese, sauerkraut, and Russian dressing. Might want to change that dressing.
Topical. I think I hate that.
I don't know. I think that could be good.
In a waffle cone.
Yeah, hell yeah. We're
I,
putting pretzels on everything. Why not have
yeah,
a waffle? Actually,
I think I hate that.
here in St. Louis, Steve's Hot Dogs, they do waffle dogs on, it's like a special item that they do from time to time, and think of a corn dog, but instead of corn bread, it's
Now,
waffle.
if Steve is, I give Steve way more runway than I give the
Yeah,
Pirates for obvious reasons.
that's fair. It's delicious though. When next time you go to Steve's Hot Dogs, enter our promo code talking about birds.
And they'll say, huh?
And they'll kick you out. Coming in at number 7, chicken and waffle cone at the Minnesota Twins Stadium.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Not
This
crazy,
one,
but like interesting.
yeah, it's chicken tenders, huge slab of bacon drizzled with maple syrup in a waffle cone.
Yeah, I would eat that.
Number 6 was the Going Yard. Number 5, the Fritos Pie Corn Dog from Houston Astros. It's a Frito pie corn dog. It's a foot-long hot dog dipped in house-made Fritos batter, queso blanco, and Texas chili.
That sounds like garbage. That sounds like you're going to be in the bathroom for 45 minutes. Which
Uh,
I'm not above, but doesn't seem worth it.
yeah. All right, number 4. I have never heard of this.
Yeah.
Little Buds,
Ooh, I like it
Saint
already.
St. Louis Cardinals.
What?
I know.
Guess we need to get some little buds this year.
Uh,
Who
it
wrote this? Who
is.
wrote this again?
I gotta scroll all the way up. Hold on.
Joe, you're a dumbass. Whoever that
Andrew Joseph
and Andrew Joseph, you're a dumbass.
from an extension of USA Today. So, Little Buds, tweet at us if you've had a Little Buds or even were aware that Little Buds existed. I like want to change the name of our podcast to Little Buds. So
It's better than our name. Smart.
it's yeah. 8 burger sliders with Budweiser beer cheese, garlic aioli, and pickles, all served in a home plate box with an absurd amount of tater tots. I mean, it sounds great, honestly. I could
Yeah,
go for some Little Buds.
but again, Andrew Joseph, it doesn't sound that crazy. It's just sliders and fries or
It's a
tots.
lot, though. I think the point is that it's a shit ton. It's
Okay.
8 sliders and an absurd amount of tater tots
Okay.
in a home plate thing. Do you when you go to other sports, do you eat things out of the like go to other sports? When you go to other games, do you eat things out of the like accoutrement of that sport, you know?
Oh,
You-
every time I see the Avalanche play, I say, "Can I get a hockey stick full of French fries?" And they're like, "Yeah, bro." No, what are you talking about? Can I get deep fried hockey puck sliders? No,
Ooh.
that's actually a good idea.
So this is another one, number 3. I kind of agree with you in that this isn't crazy. This just sounds great, but maybe it's like the concept of getting this at a stadium is what's
Sure.
crazy, and not that the food is crazy. Bone-in smoked beef short ribs at Washington Nationals Park.
Yeah, that just sounds delicious.
DC is a big barbecue town, so you
Yeah.
know it's extended into the stadium. But I mean, I guess eating like a sloppy bone-in rib feels pretty absurd at a
Yeah.
baseball game. You're like, you've got other people like shoulder to shoulder with you, and you're like,
Lay off me, I'm starving.
yeah. That's the second, old comedy that you've now referenced involving old fat dead guys.
I'm very funny.
All right, rounding it out, the Bayou City Dog from Houston Astros. So you were
wow.
right when you had clocked Texas with the
Mm.
Rangers. Houston has 2 on here.
Yeah.
It is a Nolan Ryan hot dog, whatever that is. Smoked pork burnt ends, Rico's cheese sauce, pickle chips, green onions, hot barbecue sauce.
Jesus, that's like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
Do you think the hot dog is made out of Nolan Ryan?
I have to imagine. Why else would you call it a Nolan Ryan hot dog? If not, that is false advertising.
It is. Yeah, that one sounds good. I go back to, I think Andrew's a dumbass. I think he did bad. I think we need to redo this. So I'm going to spend the next year eating everything.
Going ballpark to ballpark, finding the most absurd shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really is like, what's something that you'd never expect to get this in a stadium? Not that it's like novelty, although some of this is novelty shit, like that 2-pound chicken tender, or like
That's so stupid.
a Coney dog egg roll, some Little Buds.
The Coney dog egg roll, I don't know, because I think Detroit is home of the Coney dog, weirdly enough. I don't know. Maybe I would eat that. It also sounds like trash, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. I can say I would try all of these things.
Yeah.
I think they all.
If I'm there, yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think they all sound uncomfortable to eat in a stadium seat. But I'll just take it to the bathroom with me,
Well, I hate that.
Get out of here. Get out of here, kids. I'm eating my Little Buds.
Police.
A local man was arrested.
So I had to Google a picture of the foul pole. It's like long. It's like, I thought it would be like a thick slab of chicken, but it looks like it's like a tube of chicken. So
It's
that's why they
worse.
call it the foul pole, because it looks like a tube.
Oh.
That is, I'm back. Okay, yeah, that sounds like absolute shit, and I would
Yeah.
not eat that.
Yeah,
Huh.
does it like stretch longer than a stadium seat? If you like got that and you sat next to people you didn't know, are you like tapping them with your chicken strip?
Maybe it's like a romantic thing. Like, you start over here, I'll start over here, and we'll meet in the middle, baby.
All right, we have a new Patreon tier.
We'll split a foul pole with you.
We'll split them.
Wait, me and you? Is that what the people want?
I don't know. We'll
hope not.
workshop this a little bit more.
I
Yeah,
hate it.
no. It's if you subscribe to us, we'll go and the subscribers on one end and one of us is on the other end.
Yeah. I think
We need to
can
cancel this podcast.
Yeah, let's cancel it. This is horrible.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, that ends this round of League Choose. You did okay, Ben, but it truly was a guessing game. You never could have known. So, but better luck next time. Do a little more research.
Thanks, bro.
So with that, we'll call this to an end. We're all, of course, excited baseball's back. We'll be back next week with hopefully some good news from spring training. And until then, have a great week, everybody, and go Cards.
Let's go.